OuterOrange.
Hi guys, welcome. This is OuterOrange here. We are here with our waifu corner, and today we're going to be discussing nightmare dolls. Let's get to it. So welcome back, you guys. So we are here to talk about Nightmare Doll Carol for Vanguard standard format. This is a pretty fun deck. I've actually been playtesting this deck for probably over a year now. Back when it came out with the Silver Thorn support, I've still been playtesting this deck even back then because I couldn't afford Silver Thorn, so I built this instead. It's an extremely fun deck. It actually does similar things that Silver Thorn does, but no sucking in pretty much. But we're gonna be talking about it. So it's a really fun deck. I've done a lot of changes over the past year and a half or so. So let's just get into it. So we're gonna start with our grade 3s here. This is 4 copies of Nightmare Doll Carol. So Nightmare Doll Carol is the boss card of the deck. Without this card, the deck does not work very well. So this is probably the downside of the deck. You really want to make sure you get this card ASAP in any way possible, or else you're gonna have a rough time. But pretty much her skill is when placed, look at top 5 cards of your deck, put a card from among them into soul, and shuffle your deck. If you put a grade 3 Workoid, you may call this card to rear guard. Now this is what's really important about this skill, is that there will be other grade 3s in here that are Workoids that will let this skill go off. Really awesome. Very good card. And then its second skill is when your grade 3 rear guard is put into your soul, counterblast, discard 2 cards, write a Workoid from your soul as stand, and that unit gets drive -1. There's -1, then drive -1 until the end of turn. So this is what makes this card like go crazy in power. You can, if you have another Carol, another her in soul, you can keep looping and looping so long as you can get a grade 3 into soul. And it's any grade 3, it doesn't have to be a Workoid. Just as long as it's a grade 3 in soul, this activates. And the point of this deck is to make sure to utilize the skill as much as possible with as little counterblast as possible. And we'll get to it as we go through the deck some more. So this is Nightmare Doll Carol. Very strong card. It utilizes the whole function of the deck. And yeah, put it over here. And then we're gonna look at top 4 for our next card reveal, which is Nightmare Doll Alice. Now Nightmare Doll Alice, sorry, I have so many versions of her in here. But anyway, Nightmare Doll Alice is the next key component to make this deck work. She is, when placed, you may call one, this is a Vanguard skill. When placed, you may call 1 Workoid from soul to rear guard, and that unit gets 5k. Her rear guard skill, which is the important skill for this deck, at the end of the battle that attacked, counterblast, soul blast, put this unit into soul to call a non-grade 3 from soul to rear guard. So she activates through Carol's skill. You swing with her, you put her into soul, and then you can activate Carol's skill. Even before you activate this one, you have an option of choosing between the two. And it pretty much activates the grade 3 condition with this. So these two work hand in hand together. The only issue is that this requires a counterblast and this requires a counterblast. So you want to be very careful when you want to use this, because the restand is nice and all, but you are going to take two counterblasts down to activate it. Her Vanguard skill is not that useful. However, it's the only thing you have when you ride. There's one more grade 3 in here, but you don't want to ride that. So it's not bad, but because this deck, like you have to get a Workoid out, it's just not the best. This is usually a good finisher. Like you can keep looping Carol, and then you can loop her instead. Like you can just put her as your main Vanguard down after using the skill, and then you can have another attack and just do crazy stuff and just pretty much finish the game, because she gives extra 5k and all that stuff. But this is a very good card. Not your ride target. This is your ride target, but this is still a good card. Still has Excel marker, that's what matters. But yeah, that's our Alice. Next, we have in our top 2, Chimera. Chimera also activates Carol's skill. Chimera says, when it attacks, Soul Blast 1, put a rear guard into your soul. This unit gets 5k, and at the end of the battle, if you do not countercharge this turn, then countercharge. So pretty much what this enables is it lets you put a rear guard into soul, a rear guard into soul, a rear guard into soul, to a rear guard into soul, because he can put himself into, and it activates 5k, you countercharge. So this card is extremely solid. Unfortunately, it's not a good ride target, but it enables you a countercharger. It lets you put something to soul, which again activates Carol's skill, and then it also gives you 5k. So this is really, really strong and really, really good. You want to get to this card pretty fast in case your opponent is trying to counterblast Starve you, but also if you just want to enable this skill with only one counterblast instead of two. So this enables you to activate it without having to counterblast for it a second time. So if you have 4 counterblasts and stuff, if you use this instead, you can potentially restand 3 times. So this makes this really good. Very good card. That's it for our grade 3s. That puts us at 10 grade 3s. And then next we have our grade 2s. And we're looking at our top deck here. And we have this pretty much the main engine of the grade 2 lineup is Armorith Beast Tamer. So Armorith Beast Tamer pretty much does a similar thing that Chimera does. Armorith Beast Tamer's skill is when it attacks a Vanguard, put one other rear on just so when she gets 3k. So this is really, really free. This is pretty much a staple in almost every Pale Moon deck. If you're not running this, I mean, you're kind of denying yourself the ability to have a really good deck. This lets you put any rear guard to soul, like anything. So that includes grade 3s again. So it follows the same condition that Chimera follows. And this also enables the fact that you can restand a lot of times without having to use as many counterblasts. So again, if you have like 2 of these on the board and you have a lot of grade 3s on the board, you can activate these skills without having to constantly counterblast twice for it. You can just counterblast once. And the whole point of the way I built out this engine is to utilize this card as much as possible without having to counterblast a ton. And that's why I changed up my deck a little bit. The last time I played people in tournaments, stuff like that, I used to go really, really heavy Workoid, and I stopped doing that. I used to run like her and stuff and a couple other cards in here. So I stopped doing that because it's just like her. I stopped doing that because it's nice. Like it's nice, but there are better ways to get power. So I started doing this instead. But anyway, 4 Beast Tamers, can't go wrong. It activates Carol a lot faster. Really good card. And that's that. The next cards we have is 3 Jumping Jill. Now, Jumping Jill is a card that I used to not run when I recreated my deck, and then I used to run her in my old version. Let's just talk about her, and then I'll explain what's the use of her. So when placed from soul, put 1 other rearguard into your soul and call a non-grade 2 from soul to rearguard in your back row. So pretty much what you want to do with this, it's a little hard to explain without actually seeing it in action. But usually with Carol, you want to attack with her first for the restand. What you do is you activate Alice's skill to put this out, and say you had a booster back here. Say you boosted, you can put that boosted rearguard back in. Use her skill to bring it back out. So it enables you to boost again when you keep rewriting. So that's pretty much primarily why I have her in here. So long story short, it makes you be able to boost again if you restand again, and that's pretty much my main focus of this card, is to make your Vanguard attacks as more lethal as possible. Because if you restand a lot of times, but you're only restanding as a 12k with 1 drive against like force numbers and against defenses, it doesn't really do too much. But if you have a booster every single time, or mostly every single time, this card is one of the best ways to enable that skill, because it lets you call a rearguard out to your back row. You can call the same one you put a rearguard that you put into soul. So if you suck in the grade 1, you can just bring it right out. So also, this is a really good ride target. It sucks as a rear guard because it's rearguard skill only, but once you ride it, it's in soul when you ride your grade 3, so you can use her skill like right off the bat if you have an Alice. So this is really good. This works really well with the Alice engine because you can call this out with Alice's skill. Very good card. It's also a Workoid, so you can call it out with both of Alice's skills, both her Vanguard and her rearguard skills. I put it at 3 because I have so many things that I need to put into the deck, to be honest. It's kind of hard putting her at 4. And you can only activate her condition through a rearguard, through sucking something in, through calling her out by sucking stuff in. So that's kind of the downside of her. She has a kind of like a tight skill, so you can't always activate it. But 3 of her, and then we run. This is why I run this over what my old Workoids used to be, but we run 4 Silver Thorn Rising Dragons. His skill is really simple. It just states if you call 2 or more cards from soul this turn, so he gets 10k. Now, there are Workoid cards that kind of do a similar thing, but they do when placed. If you have set amount of Workoids, then they get 2k power, and you can get to that 10k power as well with those cards, but this gets it faster, and on an Excel marker this becomes a 24k. And I think that's really, really strong, especially when you land some fronts with this too. And also this condition is really easy to meet. Alice activates this condition really fast. Chimera and other ways of throwing stuff in and throwing stuff out to the board makes this go really fast. Carol herself puts a card into Soul that also can like activate the condition because you'll probably be putting stuff out anyway. It's not too hard to activate this skill. So I started running this card to get that insta 10k versus the Workoids that gave the 10k if you had Workoids. So I thought that engine was not as good yet. Now hopefully in the future, because we are getting Workoid cards soon in the clan selections that are coming out. That's actually why I'm doing this, because they are revealing a Nightmare Doll. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this whole deck profile for people who are getting hyped for Nightmare Doll stuff. But maybe eventually we can replace this with something better, because I would like an entire Workoid engine, but unfortunately it's just not strong enough right now to have an entire Workoid engine, because I used to play it like that. But yeah, we have our 4 Silverthorn Rising Dragons. He gives us power. Very good card. Next we have, oh, that's all the grade 2s. That's all the grade 2s. So our grade 2s is 11. 11 grade 2s. Now going on to grade 1s. Well, I started off with this card. So this is probably the biggest change in the deck. It's a really hard change to make because it took me a while to make a decision. But it's 4 Masquerade Bunnies. So as I mentioned before, your main staple of the deck is Carol. Getting Carol literally will make your life a lot easier. If you miss Carol, you are gonna have a really hard time. It's the deck's biggest weakness is not getting Carol, because getting Carol pretty much just propels the deck so much faster, and missing her is just killer. It can kind of screw you up. But this is our grade 3 searcher. It says if 1 or more cards were called from your soul, this unit gets 5k. Very easy condition to meet. So on top of the fact that this is good for a searcher, it's also good as a 13k booster. Because again, you can activate this with Jumping Jill skill, and she becomes a 13k booster in the back, which is probably one of the strongest boosters, except for one other one that we'll be discussing soon. But anyway, when placed, you reveal top 5. If you get a grade 3, discard a card. You know, the usual grade 3 searcher stuff. And you put it to your hand, you get your grade 3. Pretty nice. I read at 4 because I really want to make sure I hit my Carol. And plus, she becomes a decent booster. And we call from Soul quite a lot in this deck, so it's really not an issue meeting her condition. So we run for her. Next, we have probably one of my favorite cards is Silverthorn Handle Grip Lenia. So this card is like pretty amazing. Her skill is when an attack or boosts Soul Charge, and this unit gets 5k. So this is also a 13k attacker. And the best part about her is this when she attacks or boosts. So you can put her onto an Excel marker, or you can put her onto the board, onto behind a Vanguard or rear guard, and have her attack. So this makes your soul bigger and faster. We never really had a really good card to Soul Charge with, at least for Workoids. There aren't that many cards that do what we want with Soul Charging. Like there is Brassy Bunny, but Brassy Bunny has like really specific conditions. It has to be placed from hand, you gotta discard a card, you gotta draw a card, which is not saying that's bad. The recycling is really good. If you have a grade 3, you can Soul Charge, but you know, it's kind of going on your grade 3 turn that you start doing this. You kind of want to start Soul Charging as quickly as possible so you can have a really lethal Carol turn. And this pretty much does that for you. It's very nice Soul Charger, and I really like the 5k that it gives. It makes every attack just that much more stronger, makes her more useful, and yeah, I put her at 3. Our next is Beverly. Beverly is a very fun little Workoid card. I used to run her at 4, I put her down to 3 to add more grade 3 searchers. So pretty much her skill is when your other Workoid is placed in the same column as this unit gets 5k. So the reason I put her at 3 is because like the only card they're really going to be placing this next to would be Alice. Just to make Alice hittable. So you'd place her here and she gets 5k, but you have to keep in mind that she has to be placed here. It can't be this way. It has to be specifically this way. With that being said, this condition can't always be met. It can be, but you really gotta think it through and all this stuff. You gotta plan ahead. You gotta put her down like a turn before sometimes just to activate it, because she does activate for Vanguard too. You can put her behind your Vanguard, but if you know you're going against a retired deck, you kind of don't want to do that. So this skill is like not an always thing, but it's just really nice to give a little bit of extra power. You can even put her behind your Vanguard, you know, swing, put her into soul with jumping Jill skill, bring her back out, swing, all this stuff. But again, your Vanguard has to restand for the 5k to activate. So yeah, she's a good card. This eventually, I hope, again, with the new workload stuff coming out, we'll get more, but she pretty much just gives you the more power pumping columns that you need. So yeah, that's Nightmare Doll Beverly. I think we are our last grade 1, if I'm mistaken. So our last grade 1 is Trapezist, Purple Trapezist. This is an amazing card in any Pale Moon deck. It works in this one as just as well. So when put from rear guard into soul, Soul Blast Purple Trapezist to call a card from your soul to rear. And it says this card may be used for the cost. So they're emphasizing the fact that if you put her into soul, you can also activate her as well to put it out to call something out. This lets you call anything out of your soul, literally anything. So this enables you multi-attacks, enables you ways to just set up a board properly, gives you another attack. She herself can be called out if you need to. She works really well, probably the best with Chimera, because Chimera's skill requires to put a rear guard into soul. Usually with the way the conditions are, if you don't have any more grade 3s to put into soul, this would be your next target to put in, because it enables another attack. So this is really, really good. Very good to just get one more attack in, one more push to get your opponent to 6 damage. Very, very nice. Very good card. I run her at 2 because, like, unfortunately the engine is to restand Carol, and this is more of another attacker. So we're mostly here to restand Carol, so you don't need her at 4, but you can put her at 4 if you want to take some other stuff out, like maybe Beverly. But I keep her at 2 because she's not always. And that's pretty much all our grade 1s, putting it at 11 grade 1s as well. Next we have our triggers. So we're going to start off with our Hades Hypnotist. I do run all 4. Drawing is very important in this deck. You really want to get to your pieces as quickly as possible. So I run 4. I used to do the Citadel crits. I changed it out and went back to the 4 draws. I think draws are very important. PGs are really solid. You know, just the usual. This is kind of like, you can't go wrong with going PGs. Like sometimes we're going draw PGs. Sometimes it's good to go crit PGs. Citadels. But this, I think, is just hard to go wrong with this. And in this deck, especially since we're so piece reliant, you kind of want to go the draws. So that way you have everything you need to just go crazy. So I run 4 of those. And then we run a ton of fronts. They're all kind of weird. They're all kind of weirdly distinguished here, but here's our 8 fronts. 8 fronts. The reason why is because we are reliant on restanding and power. You don't really need your crits. I used to run actually like 5 crits and some weird numbers and stuff like that, but pretty much the goal is to just have really high columns to make everything hit as quickly as possible. So, and you have a lot of Vanguard swings. If you can potentially restand 3 at max 4 times if you really have a really solid board. But long story short, restanding is like your main thing, and if you keep getting fronts, your columns are just gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the bigger the columns are, the better chance of you winning, because if your opponent lands a defense, then that's kind of it, like your entire board gets shut down. However, if you had fronts, your board is back in action, and even though it might be equal, you're still hitting, and that's what's important. You're still shredding your opponent's hand down, and the more fronts you land, the quicker and faster your opponent will die. So I run all 8 of them. If I could run 12, I might even consider running 12, because it's just too good. It's too good. Last but not least, of course, we have our lovely 4 heals. Heals are very solid. I guess I could change my heals out for fronts, but I ain't like that. I'm not that crazy, but that doesn't seem like a bad idea, actually. But anyway, so 4 heals, you know, because heals are OP. The only time heals suck is when you have 2 counterblasts, and you have Carol, and you have Alice, and you heal, and you lose a counterblast, and now you can't restand. So maybe heals suck, but just kidding. Heals are good. Heals are good. You need heals. Heals are good. So you run 4 because you need heals. But yeah, like I said, just be cautious of healing when you don't want to heal because you need your counterblast. But yeah, that's our triggers. Hope you guys know I'm like 90% joking, though it does suck sometimes, but heals are OP. We of course have our lovely Silver Thorn assistant starter. Very cute as always. You can also run, you know, the other 3 or 2 that there are. We also have a quick shield because, you know, we need quick shields to survive. And of course, the main focus that I really want to talk about is Excel markers. So this deck really relies on Excel too. you really want to go Excel 2. I do not recommend going Excel 1. The reason being is you will actually -1, because Carol's skill states that you discard 2 cards to restand. So you discard 2 cards, you restand, you draw a card from Excel 2, and then when you attack, you get another card for your Vanguard check. However, if you go Excel 1, you will actually minus every single time, and eventually you won't be able to restand anymore if you use Carol's skill. Unless you have like enough cards in hand, like if you have 8 cards, that's fine. But the other issue is you're shredding your hand down. The power is nice because it'll make you more lethal, but going Excel 1, you are like 100% sure that your opponent will die. You're guaranteeing that your opponent will die if you go Excel 1. If you go Excel 2, you're pretty much keeping the game stable, meaning like you're giving yourself a chance to not die. But if you're in going Excel 1, you're pretty much guaranteeing your death if you don't kill your opponent. So in this deck particularly, you have to go Excel 2. You literally have no other option to. I've never gone Excel 1, and when I have, I'm usually dead before anything matters. So I don't recommend it. It can be a bad decision. But if it works, it works. I'm sure there are some really rare occasions where it might work out, because that extra pump of power does help. It pretty much makes it so that if your opponent does get a defensive marker, you don't care, because you can keep restanding. So if you're like in a weird death situation where you're at 5 damage and your opponent's at 3 and you just know you're gonna die anyway next turn, then I mean, I guess Excel 1 would be the way to go. But otherwise, Excel 2 is definitely the better option in this case. But yeah, that's pretty much the Excel markers, and that's pretty much the deck profile. I don't really have much else to discuss for you guys. This deck is really fun. I explained to you guys the weaknesses it has. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. I'm super hyped to see the new, I think it's Chelsea. I think her name is Chelsea. There's a new Nightmare doll coming out. Hopefully it's more than one, because we really need more than one. But I love the Nightmare doll engine. I play it in Premium. I play it at Standard. I think the deck is super big brain fun. There's a lot of thinking involved, but that's kind of the fun of the deck. And hope you guys liked the video. Hope it was informative for you. Tell me about your thoughts, things you do for your decks, if you do have a Nightmare doll deck. Please feel free to talk to me. Nightmare doll is a very, very, very quiet. Oh, it just got dark in my room. Well, I don't know if you guys can tell, but Nightmare doll is a very quiet deck. Like, not many people know like this deck is a thing, and if they do, they've never played it. Like, this deck is very exclusive to like all the people that just play it. Like, it came out during the Silverthorn era, and like nobody knew that Carol even existed when the Silverthorn stuff came out, because everybody jumped on Silverthorn. But this deck's super fun, has similar ways of obtaining power, just slightly weaker. So yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave me a question if you want to have your question be shown up next time. Other than that, this has been OuterOrange here with some Vanguard, and I'll see you guys in a future video. Peace out, and до свидания.